It always starts with something small. A skipped meal. A moment of dizziness. Forgetting a name you've known for years. You brush it off, thinking, I'm just tired. Or maybe, I'm getting older, that's all. But what if these tiny moments were signs? What if your body was whispering something much more serious, and you didn't even know it? Most people don't want to think about their final year of life. It's uncomfortable. It's distant. It's something we believe we'll recognize clearly, with warning bells and flashing lights. But the truth? Life rarely works that way. Especially as we age, the signs that we are nearing the end can be subtle, so quiet that even our doctors might miss them. You may feel just a little more tired than usual. Maybe your appetite isn't what it used to be. You might chalk it up to the weather, or stress, or simply one of those weeks. But what if these signs were the body's last attempts to get your attention? There's something deeply human about wanting to believe we have more time. But what if ignoring the small stuff actually costs us precious time we could have used differently, connecting with family, getting care, or simply preparing with peace? In this video, we're going to uncover the 5 most subtle signs that you or someone you love could be in their final year. These aren't obvious. In fact, they're the kind of signs most people never notice until it's too late. But once you know them, you won't be able to unsee them. And it all begins with one question: have you been feeling just a little off? Time is a strange thing. When we're young, it feels infinite, like we've got decades ahead of us to fix things, mend relationships, or get our health back on track. But as the years go by, that time speeds up. Weeks feel like days. Seasons blur into each other. And before we know it, we're wondering where the years went. That's why recognizing the subtle signs of decline is not just important, it's urgent. Because these quiet shifts in our body are often the only signals we get before something major happens. A fall. A hospitalization. A diagnosis no one saw coming. Or worst of all, a sudden goodbye. Let's be clear. This isn't about living in fear. It's about living with awareness. Because when we catch the signs early, we get a chance to act. We get a chance to speak to our doctors, to plan better, to spend our days more meaningfully. We get the power back. Unfortunately, most people don't see these signs until it's too late. Families are often blindsided. A loved one seemed fine just a month ago. Until they weren't. Until that one symptom, brushed off for too long, turned into something irreversible. And here's the hard truth: many final year symptoms don't show up as loud emergencies. They creep in. They settle slowly. And that's exactly why they get missed. Think about this: how many times have you heard someone say, "He seemed totally healthy," or "She never complained"? We assume no news means good news. But when it comes to aging, silence can be deceiving. And the cost? It's not just medical, it's emotional. When we don't prepare, families are left with regret. Wishing they'd spent more time. Wishing they'd had that conversation. Wishing they'd known. You deserve more than that. This is not about predicting the exact moment someone will pass, it's about recognizing that the final chapter often begins long before we realize. And with the right awareness, we can use that time wisely. Because the earlier we see the signs, the more time we have to live, with intention, dignity, and love. So what exactly should we be looking for? You might be surprised by the very first sign. It often begins so quietly that you barely notice it at first. Maybe your favorite shirt starts to hang a little looser, or you realize you haven't finished a full meal in days. You feel a little more tired than usual, but you chalk it up to a busy week or a change in the weather. The small things, so easy to overlook, begin to pile up in the background of daily life. And yet, those tiny changes may be the very things trying to tell you something more serious is happening. One of the earliest signs people miss is weight loss. Not the kind that comes from dieting or an active lifestyle, but the kind that creeps in quietly, without explanation. You might not even notice it yourself. Maybe your pants fit differently, or your belt is suddenly a notch tighter. Friends may comment, "Hey, you look like you've lost weight." And you smile, maybe even feel a little proud. But inside your body, something else might be going on. When you lose weight without trying, especially as you get older, it could be a sign your body isn't absorbing nutrients properly. Or that a serious illness is slowly draining your strength from within. What's dangerous is how easily we dismiss it. We assume it's nothing, or even a good thing. But when weight slips away without a reason, it can mean your body is working harder just to keep going. Then there's the fatigue. The kind that's hard to explain to others. You sleep, but you wake up still exhausted. Simple tasks, making coffee, walking across the room, start to feel like chores. At first, you might just say you're getting older, but deep down, something feels off. It's not just tiredness. It's as if your energy has vanished, like your body is operating on low battery no matter how much you rest. This type of fatigue isn't solved with an extra nap. It's your body conserving what little strength it has left. And yet, so often, we just push through it, not realizing that it could be the early sign of a major shift in our health. Next comes something harder to admit, changes in the way you think or remember. You forget names you used to recall in an instant. You start a sentence and lose your train of thought. Maybe you repeat yourself and don't even realize it until someone points it out. These moments are scary, and because they are, we tend to hide them. We joke about senior moments, hoping laughter will make the fear smaller. But if you find yourself struggling more often, if conversations become confusing or decisions feel overwhelming, that could be your brain waving a quiet flag. Not all cognitive decline looks like dementia. Sometimes it's just a slow dimming of clarity. But when your mind starts slipping, even in small ways, it often means something deeper is affecting your body's overall balance. One of the clearest signs, though still often missed, is when someone starts pulling away from life. They stop going to their usual lunch group or miss a few church services. The phone rings, and they don't feel like picking it up. It's easy to write off as needing rest or being in a quiet mood. But sometimes, that withdrawal is a deeper signal. A sign that a person is feeling disconnected, not just emotionally, but physically. They may be struggling to keep up, even if they don't say it. They may be too tired, too embarrassed, or too unsure of themselves to be around others like they used to. This quiet pulling away can be the beginning of a much more serious shift. It's not always about being sad. Sometimes, it's about the body preparing itself, in its own way, for a transition we don't yet understand. And then, one day, it becomes visible. The way someone walks, slower, unsteady. You notice bruises on their arms or legs, and they brush them off with a laugh. Just bumped into the table. But deep down, you worry. Getting up from a chair becomes a struggle. Climbing stairs is out of the question. You see them holding onto furniture as they move through a room, trying to stay balanced. These aren't just signs of getting older. They're signs that the body is beginning to break down. Muscles are weakening. Reflexes are slowing. Recovery from simple aches or small illnesses takes longer. It's a kind of decline that doesn't shout, but when it comes fast. And once it begins, everything can change in a matter of months. The hard truth is this: these signs rarely come with sirens or flashing lights. They whisper. They show up slowly, like a fog rolling in. And unless we're paying attention, we miss them, until it's too late. But once you know what to look for, these moments start to make sense. They are signals. Not of fear, but of truth. Of preparation. Of a body asking for care, for attention, maybe even for goodbye. The good news? These signs don't have to mean the end is near, not yet. With the right awareness, there are things you can do. Actions you can take. Steps that can change the direction, or at the very least, bring peace and clarity to what lies ahead. And now that you see the signs for what they are, what should you do about them? Once the signs begin to reveal themselves, quietly, steadily, it's easy to feel helpless. But the truth is, you're not. Recognizing these signals is not the end of the story. In fact, it may be the beginning of something more important, a chance to do something while time is still on your side. The first step is simple, though not always easy: talk to someone. That means a real conversation with a doctor, not just a quick mention during a routine checkup. Write down the changes you've noticed. Be honest. Mention the fatigue, the weight loss, the confusion, even the emotional withdrawal. Don't soften it. The details matter. Doctors can only act on what they know, and often, these subtle shifts don't show up in lab tests, they show up in the way you live, in the little moments you've started to question. From there, consider scheduling a full evaluation. Ask for blood work. Ask about cognitive screenings. Look into physical therapy assessments or nutritional consultations. Not because you're expecting the worst, but because knowledge is power. The more you know, the more choices you have. It's also time to take a good look at your daily habits. Are you eating enough real food? Getting some kind of movement, even if it's just a short walk around the house? Are you staying hydrated? Sleeping through the night? These may sound like basics, but they become crucial in later life. Small changes, like adding a protein shake between meals, or doing 5 minutes of stretching every morning, can slow the slide into deeper decline. And those minutes add up. Just as important as connection. If you've been withdrawing, try to reach out. A phone call, a coffee date, even a weekly visit from a neighbor or home aide can do more than lift your mood. It can remind your body and your brain that you're still part of something, still rooted in this world. And maybe, most importantly, take this as a moment to open the door to bigger conversations, with your family, with yourself. About how you want to live, what kind of care you'd want, and how you'd like to be supported going forward. You can't control everything, but you can choose to pay attention now. One of the greatest dangers when these subtle signs begin to appear isn't just ignoring them, it's misunderstanding them. We live in a culture that often brushes off the early warnings of decline with comforting, but misleading, beliefs. And those beliefs can cost us precious time. The first, and perhaps most common, misconception is this: it's just old age. How many times have we heard someone say that? Someone loses weight, sleeps all day, starts forgetting things, and we say, well, they're just getting older. But aging, on its own, shouldn't mean slipping away. These aren't just harmless quirks of growing old. They're signs that something deeper may be happening, and assuming otherwise can delay critical care. Another common belief is that if someone isn't in pain, they must be fine. But decline doesn't always come with pain. It can come with silence. Tired eyes. Missed meals. Quiet confusion. When we only look for pain, we miss the quiet suffering that can mean just as much. And then there's the idea that if the doctor didn't mention it, it's probably nothing. But here's the truth: doctors see patients for minutes at a time. They rely on you to tell them what's changed. If you don't say anything, they can't help you see what's hidden in plain sight. Misunderstanding the signs may offer comfort in the short term, but clarity offers something far better. It gives you time. And in the final years of life, time, used wisely, is the most valuable gift there is. Now that you've seen what these subtle signs look like, you may be feeling a mix of emotions, concern, maybe even fear. But don't let that stop you. Let it move you. Because this knowledge isn't meant to scare, it's meant to guide. Start by paying attention. Not just to the people around you, but to yourself. That little voice that says, something's not right, listen to it. If your energy is fading, if your memory feels cloudy, if something in your body feels unfamiliar, don't push it aside. Bring it forward. And talk about it. These conversations can be hard. But they can also be healing. Sit down with your family. Let them know what you've noticed. Invite them into your care, not just as observers, but as partners. Even more important, don't wait for a crisis. Take steps now. Get the checkups. Ask the hard questions. Make small changes to support your strength, your clarity, your joy. Because the point of recognizing these signs isn't just to spot the end, it's to improve the rest of the journey. To use the time you have, however long that may be, in a way that brings peace, preparation, and even purpose. Every day you wake up is a chance, no matter your age, no matter your health. A chance to notice, to act, to love, and to live with intention. The signs we've talked about aren't a countdown, they're a call. A call to tune in. To honor your body's signals. To spend your time where it matters most. Don't let the quiet warning slip by. You've earned this awareness. Use it. Because life doesn't end with a diagnosis or a decline, it ends when we stop paying attention. And today, you're paying attention. That's where the power begins.